Hello and welcome to Pittsburgh City Council's Post Agenda for Tuesday, May 7th, 2019. My name is Kim Clark Baskin and I'm your Deputy City Clerk. With us today, we have our sign language interpreter, Logan Showalter. The following is an agenda item to be discussed by Pittsburgh City Council. At the request of Councilmember Corey O'Connor, there will be discussion on the youth participatory budget. That concludes the title of today's meeting. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
Good afternoon and welcome to Cablecast Post Agenda on our youth budget. I'm Councilman O'Connor. I'll be chairing this meeting, and we have some very special guests here from across the city of Pittsburgh. If you don't know what the youth budget is, a couple years ago we started it. We had a committee of youth from across the city that come down, deliberate through our budget, and give council proposals on where the money should be spent. We thought this was really important to engage kids because, sometimes the youth don't believe that they have a voice, and we are giving them a voice we have 4 representatives, and we have the rest of the committee behind us who will introduce themselves towards the end of the meeting. I do want to thank the Pittsburgh Public Schools. I want to thank Asia from the public schools for all her help. I want to thank my Chief of Staff, Kurt, for meeting with you guys on a number of occasions. I was told you were fed pretty well throughout the process, so that's number one. And I would just thank you guys for participating. It's really important that we have civic engagement with our youth and that you can come down here and talk to us about your city and what you'd like to see in it. So I'll pass it off to you guys. Just everybody want to introduce themselves, and then whoever's starting the presentation will go from there. Yeah.
Hello, and thank you for attending today's post-agenda meeting hosted by the PPS Youth Participatory Budget Council. Today's speakers are as follows. Mariama Davis, an 11th grader at Ellis, representing District 9. Dylan Shapiro, a 9th grader at Obama, representing District 5. Bana Al-Musa, an 11th grader at Pittsburgh Science and Technology Academy, representing District 4, and myself, Amira Johnson, a 10th grader at Pittsburgh Science and Technology Academy, representing District 2. We are asking $125,000 to fund community land trusts.
I'm Dylan Shapiro, and I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about sort of the process of how we came to decide on this specific topic, and also how we came to have our positions at the Budget Council. So we all applied first online and filled out an online application. Then we later came in for an in-person interview. Upon receiving notice that we had all been given an opportunity to be on this council, which was we were all overjoyed to hear, we attended a summer leadership training that was held at Carlow University. There we learned various different leadership styles and how best to implement them. As we began our meetings, we sort of talked about different ways that we would figure out what issues that we wanted to address. We talked about different sort of broad areas of discussion that we had interests in and we were thinking of talking about. And so we had narrowed it down to about 5 broad areas of problems that we sort of wanted to do what we could to solve. And then we decided that the most pressing of the problems that we had sort of figured out was gentrification. And then we looked into ways that we could sort of lower the effects of gentrification. And one of the best ways that we had found was through the use of community land trusts. After we realized that that was the specific topic we wanted to go down, we split into sort of subcommittees where we had different people who had different jobs. So some people's jobs was to spread awareness about our proposal and try and get as many people sort of in the know about what we were doing as possible. Some people's jobs were to sort of figure out the nitty-gritty, what the specific requirements were going to be for. Some people's jobs were to figure out what the best way to distribute the money was. So we had all different people working. and now we're finally here, and it's fantastic. So I'm gonna pass the mic off to Bana, and she will give you some information about gentrification and the effect that it has on the city.
All right, thank you, Dylan. So like Dylan said, our project focused on gentrification. And what gentrification means is when redevelopment in an area brings in more affluent residents. Now, this may seem like it's a beneficial event, but gentrification typically comes at the high cost of displacing low-income, minority, and local residents. Now, in this presentation today, we might use the term gentrification to describe the issue, but if we use that term, please know that what we mean is the displacement that occurs as a result and not the gentrification itself. Now, we might think that gentrification doesn't affect Pittsburgh, that it's more of a national issue than a local issue. But an interesting fact that we found is that Pittsburgh is the 8th most gentrified city in the United States. In Pittsburgh, overall, there was a 20% average increase in home values, and on average, over 935 African American residents were displaced in a span of 10 years, from 2000 to 2010. Now, to go into the specific neighborhoods, and to name a few, neighborhoods with gentrification include Bloomfield, Garfield, Mount Washington, Polish Hill, and sections of Northside. Neighborhoods with Black displacement specifically include the Mexican War Streets on North Side, St. Clair, Downtown, South Oakland, and the Hill District. There are two neighborhoods I didn't mention just now, and those are the two neighborhoods that usually come up the most when we talk about gentrification and displacement. And those two are East Liberty and Lawrenceville. Now, the reason that those two come up the most is because gentrification occurs at such a high rate there, and because displacement occurs at such a high rate in those areas. For instance, in East Liberty alone, 940 African American residents were displaced between 2009 and 2015, in a span of only 6 years. And in those 6 years, this time period coincided with the redevelopment that occurred in the area. Meanwhile, in lower Lawrenceville, gentrification also occurred and displacement followed. In lower Lawrenceville, average home values increased by 126%, making the average home value $133,600. Now, there is a special case in Upper Lawrenceville. When we usually talk about gentrification, we see how it primarily affects people of color. And though it does primarily affect people of color, it can affect a large variety of people. In Upper Lawrenceville, white displacement of older people occurred. 740 white people were displaced, and 440 Black people moved into Upper Lawrenceville. And that fact is so important because Upper Lawrenceville shows that gentrification and displacement can affect every single one of us, and it can affect people from all different walks of life. Now, if you're not yet convinced that gentrification and displacement are an issue that affect Pittsburgh, I would like you to consider that Pittsburgh's culture is based on its residents. The residents make it up. So if gentrification and displacement increase and they keep on occurring, then the residents that move away will be taking Pittsburgh's essence with them. So we must focus on gentrification, and we know that the city cares about this issue because of the Housing Opportunity Fund that the city is currently working on. So because we know that there is already a process that the city is following to fix this issue of displacement, but we wanted to contribute our share by focusing our project in the PPS YBBC on gentrification. So, as with any project, we did research, and through our research, we found the community land trusts, which are nonprofit organizations that purchase areas off the market so that they can make them more affordable to prospective buyers who may have been displaced from an area. And now I won't be going too much into community land trusts, and I will be passing it off to Mary Alma so that she can expand more on this process, on this idea.
As Bana said, gentrification is a large, multifaceted problem in Pittsburgh. The area median income, a figure by the Department of Housing and Urban Development, averages the family median income by household number from the Allegheny, Butler, Beaver, Westmoreland, Washington, and Fayette counties. If we apply these averages specifically to East Liberty, the average household income is around $30,500 a year, and the average household population is 2. And according to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, housing is affordable when the occupants are paying no more than 30% of his or her income for housing costs. And according to Zillow, a real estate website, the median price of East Liberty listings is $156,000. So, if the citizens of East Liberty are paying no more than 30%, or paying more than 30% of their income on rent, it is hard to build up capital to invest in a home, which creates displacement in these gentrified areas. But as Bonna said, these issues do not only affect East Liberty, but they affect communities such as the Hill District and South Oakland, who are suffering from the effect of gentrification and displacement. We believe that community land trusts in Pittsburgh will promote slowing down gentrification. These trusts are nonprofits where the trust would retain ownership of the land while the resident would own a house, which makes the home permanently affordable to prospective buyers. So the trust will have control over the price, and the price of the home will be significantly lower. And this solution has already been brought up by the Affordable Housing Task Force, who stated in their May 2016 report that programs such as community land trusts would guarantee ongoing affordability. And not only was this solution brought up to the city, there is already a precedent in Pittsburgh, such as Lawrenceville, who established their own community land trust in July 2015. Their goal is to preserve authenticity, which they describe as preserving community diversity and working class heritage, and building on existing architectural assets. This is the mindset that the city of Pittsburgh needs when supporting our citizens. We need to build and establish permanently affordable housing that will market to lower economic classes in these gentrified areas. And since there's already a push in the city government by the Affordable Housing Task Force, who suggested ways the city of Pittsburgh can promote inclusionary housing, is to contract with local nonprofit entities to steward inclusionary housing units or place units into a local land trust, meaning that the city of Pittsburgh can create affordable housing through negotiating with nonprofits for the inclusion of lower economic classes in the housing market. We believe that this can help another community land trust to open and ultimately make housing more affordable in a gentrified area of Pittsburgh. Amir will now discuss our proposal of community land trust.
Thank you. Okay. So you just heard some background information on community land trusts and how they assist in preventing gentrification. As part of our proposal, we would like the council to invest into community land trusts because the facts strongly support that they have many benefits. A study conducted by the Texas A&M University shows that community land trusts significantly lower the possibility of gentrification in communities. Areas that have community land trusts have more stable levels of income, stalling a decrease in affordability, ensuring that renters keep their homes. Community land trusts create permanent, affordable housing where rent cannot exceed a feasible amount. We would like this program to be considered for the fall 2020 budget. In order for a given community land trust to be eligible for this program, they must meet the following requirements. Number 1, they cannot be more than 6 months into development. And number 2, they must benefit low-income communities. Any community land trusts to meet these requirements are eligible for the program. We will delegate the authority to the URA to choose the recipient. They will make sure the money is given fairly based on requirements. We believe $125,000 is a good starting amount for this program because in communities such as Lawrenceville, a house can be sold for as much as $180,000. And that's one of Pittsburgh's communities where housing tends to be more expensive. So we believe $125,000 is enough to buy a house in other neighborhoods where housing may not be as expensive. On behalf of the PPS Youth Participatory Budget Council, I'd like to thank you for attending our hearing and proposal. We implore you to support our plan to lower the effects of gentrification. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. You touched on a really big subject that I'm impressed that you guys went through all that detail. I think it's great that you're looking at the city not just within your own neighborhoods, but a holistic approach to it, which is what we have to do on a daily basis. So when you talk about, we do have the Housing Opportunity Fund, and we're starting to look at different ways to fight gentrification across the city of Pittsburgh. So it's really good that you're tackling this, because this is something that's going to affect Pittsburgh, not just 5 years from now, but 20 years from now. Some things that we did sort of close to a land trust that we did in my district was the city owns the most land. I don't know if you guys discussed that in your meetings or not, but we own about 11,000 plus parcels. So we can really be at the forefront of helping this. And I think what we did in Hazelwood, because we're seeing a lot of people come in, buying properties, flipping them, renting them for a higher amount than people can afford, what we did was we put deed restrictions on properties in Hazelwood so that when somebody buys off us, we can really dictate the terms. And that's kind of what you guys are leaning towards, just using a land trust in that way. When it comes to zoning, I don't know if we mentioned that at all, but overlay districts. We're about to pass an overlay district in Lawrenceville that basically has some terms where, and I'm simplifying this, but let's say you're going to build 50 new units of apartments. Okay, well, within those units, because you're in this certain area, you have to have 20 of them have to be affordable. And I'm just, again, paraphrasing the bill, but that's kind of what we're trying to drive people to understand how this is going to affect everybody. So when you guys had your meetings, what were the other 5 topics that did you say there were 5 that you broke down to this one?
Approximately 5.
Approximately 5. What were the other ones? Just curious.
We talked about...
Not potholes, I hope.
Actually, there was some discussion of actually doing something related to roads.
Okay, all right.
There was some discussion of doing something related to sort of public transport, but we sort of decided to steer away from that because Port Authority is more tied to the county.
Right. Yeah.
There were also other issues that were looked into, so we talked a fair amount about sort of creating more access to women's reproductive rights to a certain extent, but we ultimately decided that gentrification was the most pressing issue to Pittsburgh, and it was also one that we had genuine ideas of how to sort of deal with.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, I'll introduce Councilwoman Gross is here. Now, they mentioned they want to take, the proposal is $125,000 to give out to the URA, to give to Land Trust to help fight gentrification. And I think her district, as she's seen it, and it's her bill, the overlay district that I just mentioned, to help fight that. As you guys mentioned, Lower Lawrenceville a couple of times through your presentation, as well as East Liberty. Councilwoman Gross is on the forefront of helping to fight that as well, especially with the overlay bill that I think we're passing in a couple weeks, hopefully. Yeah. So their proposal to us is to take $125,000 with some guidelines that we'll get a copy of to the URA, but it has to go to land trusts throughout the city to put property aside to restrict it for gentrification purposes. So it's good. I'll pass it off to you if you want to.
Wonderful.
So, yeah.
So I didn't, I apologize, I was stuck on the phone there, and I knew I had it on my calendar to come see you all, so I really appreciate your coming in and your work on this topic. Have you been following the Community Land Trust that Lawrenceville has started, and we're looking at expanding now, which is so wonderful? Yes. Did you see the construction that they did in Upper Lawrenceville?
I think so.
Some of them, they even did like prefab preset buildings. It was fantastic, right? So, those skinny little lots in a historic city neighborhood. And a flatbed truck came in and just kind of like popped up the walls of the floor. That was amazing. And the crane kind of just like picked it up and set it right down on top of the structure. And there are people living there now. So it's really wonderful. And that these community land trusts can be permanently affordable is really, I think, such the idea that we've been looking for. So that it's not affordable this year, but then in 5 years, it's gone up, 500%, and no one can afford it anymore. So it's really been a struggle. We actually got questions from the Planning Commission. One of the commissioners a few weeks ago when we were having this discussion was really struggling with that part. She said, "But if that household then sells that house for 5 times what they bought it for, then they're wealthier, and that's good." And it's like, well, that's true, and we've had that happen in some other neighborhoods in other kind of moments in the city's history and other parts of neighborhoods. That was seen as a bonus, that one household really got to grow their wealth. But right now in Upper Lawrenceville especially, they're really focused on trying to save or to preserve just a few homes that are permanently affordable, because so many of the houses have already. So it's like a different neighborhood, it's a different conversation, and it's a different goal. And so a different tool is required. And so the permanent affordability that land trusts can do can help satisfy what the neighborhood's own goals are. So it's really wonderful. I'm really excited to see it rolling out. Yeah, and I'd be very happy to see more across the city. We think Oakland now is working on. Did you guys already go over this and I just missed it?
We learned about it, but I don't think we really talked about it.
Yeah, so Oakland is working on one now. I know that Garfield is interested. And I think you've moved some things forward in Hazelwood.
In Hazelwood, yeah. We discussed the sort of background that we were doing with deed restrictions, but we haven't moved them over yet. But you're right, we're starting to do that.
I was happy to vote on those. I was really interested in did you do 12 or so? 14,
I think we did 20.
20, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful news.
So it's good. Yeah, everybody's on the same page here, which is good. And then to hear it from them is really impressive that they're thinking about it well down the road, not just, $125,000 for a playground, but let's do something that impacts people for a number of years. So it's good.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Well, no, thank you for coming out. Yeah, and again, this is something so the proposal will come to us, and then we get into budget season, obviously in the fall. Is there anything that sort of stood out through the process? I mean, most of you didn't really know each other before coming here, but did you find it interesting to see how other people in different areas of the city have different issues that you're not thinking of? And we have that issue in council. Sometimes it could be paving in my district, but it could be a land trust in Councilwoman Gross's district. So we sort of shuffle all those things as well when we're down here. So any other fun comments you guys have for us? What was your best part besides the food? What did you enjoy the most? Well, I know we had a conference with the mayor when you first came in. Yes.
We did like a tour, and that was really cool. We met like the mayor's I would guess you would call him assistant. We met the mayor's assistant. He was pretty cool. Yeah,
he was it James was giving you a tour?
I can't remember what his name was. I just remember his personality.
Okay, all right. Well, that's good. You guys,
I liked, I guess, like meeting everybody from different districts. Like you said, we can't know everything about every single neighborhood because Pittsburgh it's large. So hearing from people who are representing each district what their issues are and bringing them to the table, that was, I think, one of the best parts. And like the visit to the mayor, that was amazing.
Yeah.
Also, I think an extension to sort of districts is schools. So we have people from SciTech, Alderdice, Obama, Ellis, Oakland Catholic, and probably a couple others that I'm forgetting. But you sort of get a bigger picture of sort of how different schools run things, which is very interesting, particularly in the case of private schools, because I've gone to public school my entire life, and so I didn't really know very much about how private schools function. So it was
they're
really interesting.
Right down the street from public schools. So yeah, it's really different what everybody goes through. And then I think you guys mentioned also, and Councilwoman Gross sort of touched upon it, is when we're losing some of our neighbors based on gentrification, you lose sort of the roots of Pittsburgh. And I think somebody mentioned the arts and the culture that we've developed over the years. We don't want to lose that. Ultimately, we want to keep Pittsburgh as down to earth as it possibly can be in a friendly city that we all love living in. So now what I'll do is I will have everybody else that was part of the committee, if you don't mind. Actually, you know what? They could is the podium on? Yeah. If you guys don't mind just taking a quick tour, stand up at the podium, say what school and what grade you're in, and if you wanted to add anything else, that's fine. I know we also have 2 school board members if they would like to come up and say a couple words. Okay.
Hi, I'm Sam Bisno. I'm a junior at Obama.
I'm Duncan Rigger. I'm a sophomore at Obama.
Hi,
Chloe Werner, and I'm a sophomore at Alderdice.
Hi, I'm Austin Davis. I'm a senior at Alderdice.
Hi, I'm Janice Sinman. I am a freshman at Oakland Catholic.
Hi, I'm Morgan Snyder, and I'm a freshman at Kappa.
Hi, I'm Aiden Gilson. I'm a junior at Pittsburgh's Online Academy.
Hello, I'm Brennan Pidoy, and I am a sophomore at SciTech.
This is a tough act to follow. I'm telling you this right now. Hi, I'm Cindy Falls. I'm a retired teacher from the Pittsburgh Public Schools, and I'm the school board representative for District 7. However, we all know that you are all our schools in the city of Pittsburgh. And I have to say, this is my first time being exposed to this particular process, and I'm very impressed and very proud of each and every one of you wanting to take that leadership step and be concerned about what is happening in the city that we live in and we love. So thank you all very much, and also council, thank you so very much for working with our students. It really shows that the partnership between the city and the PPS should be and is what it is. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, guys. And actually, let me introduce Councilman Coghill, who's here with us. Now, the kids, this started 3 or 4 years ago. So what the proposal is, they work with kids from all across the city. They then set up meetings with budget office, council's office, mayor's office. They come together and they give us a proposal leading into the budget. So this year's proposal is $125,000 to give to the URA specifically for land trust to stop gentrification in certain areas of the city. So that's what they came up with, and I know I'm putting you on spot, but they went through the presentation. We'll all get copies of it, but thank you for being here. I don't know if you wanted to add anything to
just
it.
thanks.
So.
I would just want to, sorry I'm late. I got caught up, but I'm sorry about the lozenge I have in my mouth as well. But no, I just want to, I'm sorry I missed the show here. Are we done, or are we wrapping it up?
Yeah, if you want to add anything, but yeah, they did their presentation.
So,
if you want to ask them questions about
okay, so
what they
the only thing
thought,
I would add is I think maybe we should throw something in the budget for a little more paving. Okay, it's not real sexy, I know. But, yeah.
He says it every single time.
You know, the squeaky wheel gets the oil.
Yeah.
We talked about roads a lot.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a whole day of discussion.
so they looked at a number of things and came up with this, but they're from all across the city, which is great. And like I said before, everybody in different areas, we have other issues that we all have to come to the table and make sure everybody gets a little piece so that the city runs well. And like he said, you know, we do need a lot of streets paved. I would just thank you guys for doing this. All of you, thank you for spending, I mean, you guys spent time outside of school hours to be with us and to help us. And not only that, but you're helping kids that want to do this in the future. I want to thank parents and guardians. I know we have grandma's sitting in the front row over there. We got to give her a quick shout out. So that was your grandmother's day gift for you there. But on behalf of the city, thank you for doing this, and we will definitely keep you posted. So
Thank
meeting
you.
adjourned. Thank you.